Hello and welcome to the Wednesday check-in presented by the Gokhstein News Network. I am your host, Landy, and today is December 3rd, 2025, and we're looking at Bitcoin here on the daily to start, as this is just a check-in. Please go back and watch the Monday video, which was the Macro Monday video, as I did cover a lot of detail on the higher term timeframes. We might check on the weekly here, but the daily is going to have a lot of the weekly levels already baked in for the levels of interest. But right off the bat here, Bitcoin has put in a swing trend change, and it did set a higher low on a close. So that is what we wanted to see. This is the reversal setup to a trend break, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. Now, it's all about what happens next, as Bitcoin is still trading within a wider weekly range between 86 to the downside, with 89 in the middle being an inflection point, and then 93.5 to the upside. And you can see that Bitcoin did close just shy of 93.5, coming in at 93,453.84 on the close, but it's very close. This is starting to show up as a compression again. Now, the areas of interest to the upside for expansion into overhead resistance would be coming in above the upper second standard deviation, which is right around $96,000. Then we can start looking to like 98 to 101, which is a big weekly level, but we're going to take a look at why this is so important. This is actually an area of interest at $96,000 that is a point of control for a much larger range on higher term timeframes. I've shown this a few times, but this is the highest traded volume up here, and this is going to be very important. So, 90, the 96 essentially overhead resistance is going to be another area to look out for if we do see Bitcoin trade above 93.5 again. And yesterday's high on spot, which is coming in at 94,181. Then I would be looking up to right around that 96. Now, 94 is also a daily level of interest. Now that's coming all the way back from these lows over here, right around 94. So be aware that Bitcoin's right in the thick of it. And above 96, then I would be looking 98 to that 101 region. And let's go ahead and take a look at that pretty quick here for the weekly zones of interest. Some of these weekly zones are obviously going to be dailies. But in this case, you can see how important this is right here for Bitcoin. Still trapped inside of this weekly zone. It's funny because a lot of people don't like line drawers. I got to say, look, tomorrow matters. And in fact, tomorrow is going to be the Thursday session, and it's going to matter. And you should be paying attention, because if Bitcoin does start closing back above 93.5, we would be looking to around 96 to the bottom side of this weekly that was lost at $98,000. Anywhere above 98, we can start looking for expansion up into 101, because getting above 96 would be expansion into overhead resistance. And you would have to see, well, do we get closes above this zone, especially not just on the daily, but on the longer term time frame, like a weekly. And then there's a big zone where there's a major fib level, as well as another weekly and a bunch of dailies in here between 102.5 and 112. And this is going to be very important if Bitcoin can trade above and close above 101. Even if it were to come back down upon initial rejection, if it did get up there, we'd have to look for this wider zone between 86 to the downside and 93.5 to the top side of the zone here, where Bitcoin's currently finding resistance. We'd need to see that flip into support. So, if we do see a close above 96 and get expansion into resistance, at minimum first pass, I would be looking for rejections. Not a guarantee, but I would be keeping an eye out for it, and whether or not it can close above 101 on a daily, and then, of course, if that can lead into a weekly. But even on any kind of a move back down, I would be looking for this wider area to be flipped into support. And I do want to note that Bitcoin has been playing very clean in this range, right? And when it got to it, it dipped in, came down to our inflection point there at 89, came right down to the bottom side, retested in some lower term timeframes, dumped out to the next weekly at around 80,000, 80,500, came right back up to the zone here, tested the inflection point at 89, held 86, and then went for the top side of the zone. Came down, dipped down below, swung the close open here, right around $85,000, but got bought back up and closed inside 86 inside the weekly. Lower term timeframes tested 89, and then it was zoomed right back to the top side here at 93.5. So we are seeing that the bulls are trying to shift in this area. We've also seen, shorts cover in this area at logical areas of support. So there is a little bit of hope alive for the bulls to extend this rally. Now, what you should be looking for is that if Bitcoin does come back down to 89, that inflection point gets back below the basis band here, which is a 20 simple moving average, just be aware of the bottom side around 86, 87. If you start to see that dropped, it's very highly likely we're going to come down and test this last higher low swing, which is right around the $84,000 region. That's also where the lower second standard deviation is. If it is dropped, I would be looking down to where the lower third's starting to come in, right back for a swing at $80,000 and potentially more into the next bigger area here between 80,500 or so and $78,000, which is a big weekly level anywhere below there. And it's probably headed for the mid 70s down there at that big monthly at 74, 420, 69. I'm going to say it every time, and it's always going to rhyme. So that's what I'd be looking out for as we enter the Thursday session, which is open. Of course, today is Wednesday. And look, I really appreciate all the support that I'm getting with these videos. I appreciate everyone that likes and shares them. I try to get in there and answer any questions I possibly can. If I've already answered in the video, I will redirect you to the video. I'll try to keep these shorter and sweeter. Sometimes if it's a bearish take, people don't like it. But in reality, understand that Bitcoin does have a chance to rally higher. That does not mean that it's like 100% we're back in the game, baby. It's got a long way to go. I've made this very clear across various stages and in this video series every Monday, Wednesday, Friday that we need to see 101 closed above, and shorts wouldn't even really have to start covering like heavy until we saw like closes above 112. And even then they got plenty of room up here. So understand the lay of the land, know the levels, understand that this is a trend shift on the daily. Swing lower high to higher low with a closing higher low trend reversal setup to a technical trend break, but it's right here at resistance. So we need to see continuation to 96, bottom side of this weekly at 98. And then you want to see it come up and test into this zone up here and potentially get above before, I would say get above, especially on a close. Show, if the bulls can show that they can close above 101 before potentially coming back down, or even higher before coming back down and trying to find liquidity and in an area of support. That would be the preferred outcome for the bulls, but just watch it very closely. It's still trapped in this big weekly zone. All right, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe, and then check back in on Friday for the Friday wrap up. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care.